Greetings and welcome to ASMR Gaming News. Please hit that like button, sit back, relax, and let's begin. So, some people data mined the Xbox store, and these data miners managed to find some new information regarding Overwatch. Apparently, Overwatch, since it's getting very close to its first year anniversary, Blizzard is planning on releasing a Game of the Year edition of the game, which will come with free loot boxes, special skins, and more content that still needs to be announced. On top of all this, Blizzard is also planning on having an anniversary event, which will offer special anniversary loot boxes, which will feature all sorts of old and new content. There isn't much information about this yet, as Blizzard still needs to officially announce the Game of the Year edition and this special event, but they are probably going to do this shortly before the official 1-year anniversary for Overwatch. Can't wait to see what they have in store for this celebration event. EA Games has downsized their BioWare Montreal studios. BioWare has a few studios, but the Montreal one was the development studio in charge of Mass Effect Andromeda. So, it seems like after all the recent problems, EA was not pleased with the results and decided to downsize the development studio. Apparently, there have been some statements suggesting that Mass Effect might even be on hiatus after Mass Effect Andromeda did so bad in terms of sales. I mean, the game did sell well, but EA was expecting this to be a huge success, which it was not. And I think the lack of quality in the game is what caused this to happen. So I kind of feel bad for the developers and the fans of the Mass Effect series, because they both deserve to receive a fully developed game, and the developers should have had the chance to, completely finish the game without having to rush it. So that's disappointing. In other news, EA recently commented on the possibility of bringing more of their titles to the Nintendo Switch. In the past, EA said the same thing about the Wii U, but when that console did not sell well, they basically just dropped support for the system. But it seems like this time, EA is very happy with the success of the Switch and are actually planning to continue supporting Nintendo moving forward. So they have FIFA 18 planned for the Switch this year. I think it comes out like the third quarter of 2017, so that's a very popular series that will help potentially bring new customers to the Nintendo Switch. If you don't know FIFA, it's basically a very popular sports series. And I think that game, along with maybe NBA and Madden, are probably the most popular sports titles on console right now. So if Nintendo manages to get those games on the Switch, I think EA will make money and Nintendo will see an increase in hardware sales. So really happy to see EA considering releasing games for the Switch in the future. Nintendo also announced their E3 2017 plans this week. Basically, on June 13th, they're going to have a spotlight event. And this spotlight event is going to be their, I want to say, digital event or live stream conference like they have done in previous years, where it's essentially a Nintendo Direct of sorts, where they announce all their new titles coming to the 3DS and Nintendo Switch. Then after this event on June 13th, directly after the event, they're going to have the Treehouse live event. Now, the Treehouse event is where Nintendo employees will talk to developers and they'll essentially host a live show for the entire day, I think, discussing the announced games and showing off gameplay footage, as well as offering additional information on the titles that were announced. They did this last year with the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So I think it's safe to say that they're going to probably do the same thing again this year. So that sounds really interesting. And additionally, they're going to be having live tournaments for Splatoon 2 and for ARMS, which is another upcoming Nintendo title. So I wonder how that's going to be. Live tournaments are always interesting. I think Nintendo is probably doing this probably for advertising, to increase the potential sales for when these games release. I know that when there's tournaments at E3, a lot of people pay attention so they could receive additional press coverage by having these events, which is essentially free marketing for Nintendo. So very smart moves on Nintendo's part. And the last piece of, second to last piece of Nintendo news, Nintendo investors are really happy right now. At the moment, it seems like a lot of their predictions and a lot of the analyst predictions, like financial analyst predictions for the Nintendo Switch, are extremely positive. I've seen some people on Bloomberg and other financial sites where analysts will write on their personal blog spaces posts regarding the Nintendo Switch, and in the last week or so, it appears like a number of these people have been extremely positive of the Nintendo Switch. I keep getting confused and saying Wii U, but the Nintendo Switch, a lot of these analysts have been showing sales data and the ever increasing upward trend that the sales are doing, ever since the Nintendo Switch launched. It has been on a gradual increase instead of a decrease or staying at about the same area. So this garnered the attention of a lot of potential investors and people that buy stocks and shares. So I heard that Nintendo's shares have actually risen in price, and that a lot of people have actually been purchasing them. So this stuff happens leading up to the Nintendo Switch reveal. I remember hearing that Nintendo stocks rose really, really high. And when Pokemon Go during last summer came out, I think that was like the highest Nintendo's stocks have ever been in the last 25 or 30 years for them. So Nintendo's entering a brand new era for their company, I think, and I'm really curious to see what the future holds for them. But seeing all these people jumping on board, basically putting money down on the chance of Nintendo being successful is really interesting to me. So enough with that boring talk. I know some of you probably find that extremely boring, but next up, the Super Nintendo PlayStation. That was discovered a while ago. I remember covering it, but essentially a guy found a Super Nintendo PlayStation in his dad's attic, and it was a huge thing all over the internet, and they took it to experts to make sure that it was legit and to, essentially help them make the system work. So Ben Heck is a guy that runs a YouTube channel here on YouTube. If you just write Ben Heck, I think he has a show. But he was given the Super Nintendo PlayStation in the effort to make it work, essentially, since only the cartridge slot worked and they could not make the CD-ROM disk drive function properly. So what happened was, in the last week or so, he finally managed to get the CD-ROM drive to work after a lot of tinkering with the internal parts of the Super Nintendo PlayStation system. He finally got it to read a disc, and then after that he ripped a disc of some emulation ROM hack game, and he had to do a bunch of different things to the data on this disc, but at the end of the day, he got it to run. He actually played this game. It did not play, properly, since there are currently 0 games created for the Super Nintendo PlayStation system. Maybe in the future someone will discover something, but at the moment, there's actually no games for it. So this game that they got to run on the system is a fan ROM hack of a game, a fan creation that just so happened to work. So really interesting video. I highly suggest you check it out if you're interested in the Super Nintendo PlayStation. I found it really interesting just seeing this guy open it up and test out this game. He used the controller and everything. It was really interesting, and I wonder if they're actually going to get more games to run on it, or just where this is all going to lead to. So I hope they continue doing interesting things with this system moving forward. And out of the blue this week, Capcom released Resident Evil Code Veronica X for the PlayStation 4. This was previously rumored to come out this year because a German classifications rating board rated this game early in the year, and as per German law, whenever they rate a game, it's essentially placed online in their classifications board system. So people notice this game pop up, and immediately assumed that it was going to be coming out, and Capcom never officially announced this or confirmed that this leak or game was actually going to come out, but in the last week, more and more information was coming out about it, and here we are. This week it just randomly appeared on the PlayStation Network store, and yeah, it's basically the PS3 version of Code Veronica X. It's not an HD remake, but it still looks good. It's an interesting game if you're a Resident Evil fan. It's one of the harder games in the series, so if you are a new fan to the Resident Evil series, I suggest not starting with this game. The combat and just like the way you save in this game is quite difficult for a beginner, so I'd suggest playing, maybe the first Resident Evil remake game and Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil 4, and RE2 and RE3, along with 5 and 7. But stay away from Code Veronica X until you are a fan of the series, because it's one of the harder games in the series, and I'm just happy that they released it on the PlayStation 4 now, so just about all the old Resident Evil games are now available on the PS4, so that's very nice. And now on to Geek News. So, Geek News for the week. The official trailer for Blade Runner 2049, or 2049. I'm pretty sure the correct way you should say it is 2049, but the trailer came out and it looks amazing. It's a full-length trailer. Previously, it was a short, 45-second trailer or something, but now they show off a lot of scenes from the movie. The environments look a bit different. The style has changed since the original movie. The original Blade Runner had a grittier, darker style feel, similar to Terminator and a lot of other, I'd say, older 80s movies like John Carpenter's Escape from New York. And this Blade Runner movie, at least the first one, had that similar style to Terminator 1 and that movie. A very cyberpunk. The city is always dark. You only see it at nighttime, basically. The streets, it's just like a different style or aesthetic, as one would say. But this new movie, while it does have a different style or look to it, it looks very nice, though. I'm digging the new look, and I'm glad that Harrison Ford is reprising his role in this movie. Ryan Gosling is playing another character alongside him in this film, and I can't wait to see what they do with this sequel, since I'm a fan of cyberpunk movies and films like this in general. So, curious to see how that turns out, but I'm remaining positive at the moment. It looks very good, and the general opinion of the internet, or consensus on the internet, seems to be very positive at the moment. So I think it's going to do well when it comes out. And in other news, Contra, the classic run and gun shoot 'em up game series by Konami, is getting a live action movie in China. Now, this is a bit strange considering Contra has the ability to be a great movie, since it's one of those video games with a very simple plot. But the thing that is a bit odd is that Contra was mostly famous back in the NES and Super Nintendo era. I know there have been like PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 games, as well as a fourth game on the Nintendo DS, which I have played, and it was very, very difficult, but also, exciting and fun to play. So, China has essentially acquired the rights to make a Contra movie. It will not be releasing outside of China, most likely, and I'm certain that fans are going to try to find a way to import a copy once it officially releases over there. The plot line seems to be pretty generic, I'd say, following the game story. I think it's going to have aliens. Aliens are usually always the main villains in the Contra games. So it could turn out to be a pretty cool movie, but I don't know. Usually video game movies are not good, and because it's a Chinese exclusive movie, I don't know if the quality is going to be up to, the Hollywood standards, but I don't know. As a Contra fan, I guess I'll check it out when it releases. Hopefully some fan groups manage to subtitle it or something. So that's it for this week. If you are interested in reading any of the articles that I've talked about in this week's episode, from this episode forward, I'm now going to link them in the description. So if you look into the description area of this video, I have links to all the articles that I talked about, so you can read up on more information if you're interested. And yeah, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Twitter at ASMR Gaming News. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time. So long, and farewell.